Welcome to the Pipeline and People podcast powered by Versorix, the show where boutique firm leaders trade less admin for more advisory. Each week, we share actionable tactics to keep your client pipeline full and your team performing at its best. I'm your host, Jaden Parisi. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Josh Ensign, founder and CEO of GX Speed, a company built to help life sciences and highly regulated industries accelerate execution without compromising precision or compliance. Josh, thanks for joining. Would you like to kick us off with a little bit of your background and how you got started with GX Speed?
Yeah, good afternoon. And I got to compliment you on your intro. Clearly, a lot of work and practice went into that. It was flawless. So, chef's kiss to that.
Thank
So,
you.
like you said, Josh Ensign, I live in Boston, Massachusetts. Last fall, I launched a new company called GX Speed. The idea for it really came about this time last year, where there seemed to be this intersection of approaching the world of consulting in a completely different way, in a way that sort of goes against the grain, the historical norms. But then with the emerging technologies, AI is sort of the hot topic at the moment, like new ways to think about technology, bring in outside expertise. And then rather than a model where you're buying these discrete projects from consultants, the idea of using outside partners and an ecosystem of partners and technologies as an accelerator for the company rather than the very rigid kind of project-based model. So that's the genesis. So as you said, we focus primarily in highly regulated industries, initially in life sciences, but also healthcare, and we also have an ongoing project with a satellite company. So we're also being pulled into the aerospace and defense industry as well too.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah,
Here's how this is going to go. We're going to walk through kind of what it takes to lead at speed in a boutique firm.
yeah.
Where the real execution drag comes from, how you're turning expertise into scalable infrastructure, and then kind of some advice for other leaders. So, to kick things off, when people ask what GX Speed does, what's your kind of go-to answer for them?
Yeah, it really is around this concept of acceleration and then our philosophy of high speed, low drag. So, consulting is my second career. Starting a startup is probably my third career. Originally, I flew jets for the Navy. And
Oh,
so, in some ways, you can take the guy out of the Navy, but not the Navy out of the guy. So, I do tend to revert back to my early phases and talk about like flying jets fast. So, this idea that we constantly have all these things to do. So, how do we eliminate or minimize the things that cause drag, slow us down, divert us, cost money, don't provide value, so we can focus on the speed, which is what do we need to do to accomplish our mission. And the idea is that when we think about like the consulting work that we do, bringing that lens in, but then also applying it to ourselves as well as we've grown from kind of that founder stage into the early startup growth phase that we're at, applying those same principles to ourselves and doing things in a different way. So we talk a lot about this concept of synthetic operations. So if you think about like a typical startup, you have some milestone approaching and you're like, oh crap, like we don't have a finance function. We don't have a finance team. We don't even have a finance person. So how do we handle that when we know that we are going to have to pay taxes here shortly? The traditional ways have been like hire someone, right? And that comes with some pros and cons to using that, or you outsource it, or sometimes there's a hybrid where you outsource part of it and keep some of it in house. So the idea is that like you don't necessarily need a finance function. What you need is the outcome. So in this case, this example, we need to pay our taxes. How do we make that happen in a way that is scalable, allows us to grow, but is not very traditional? Let's go find a bigger version of ourselves, hire away one of their finance directors and anoint that person CFO and tell them to build the same finance function here, or outsource it, throw stuff over the wall and hope for the best. So neither of those things.
got it. And the pro bono work you do with veterans makes sense now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I since you brought it up, I'll give a pitch for that as well. So I was talking to a friend of mine from my old life who was also starting up a early stage company. He was talking about some of the struggles that they were having, specifically trying to get their financial house in order as they were looking to bring in their first round of investment. I said, like, I actually have some pretty smart people in that space. Like, we'll just do it for free. And then they enjoyed it. My team enjoyed it so much. They said we should turn this into a ongoing program. And I said, I can always get behind that. So for anybody who's listening out there, veteran owned startup, small business, we do have a pro bono program where we offer some free services to help you accelerate, get off the ground. It's on our website, and always happy to take people who are interested in participating.
That's amazing. Love that you're giving back like that. I'm actually on the board of directors for a local charity here in Toronto that we help homeless people.
Yeah, I mean, like we live in a capitalist world, so we all have to make money and pay bills, but at the same time, there is a larger meaning to life and what we do. So I'm always happy when people find kind of their own way of contributing beyond just the, earning a paycheck or earning a dollar.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting kind of, into it now. You had a pretty good post on your LinkedIn. It was comparing AI to a turbocharger, like in a car, and how it's useless without the engine. You know, Too many teams kind of chase AI like it's this silver bullet. But you nailed it. Speed without structure is just chaos, right? So, how do you help clients kind of avoid that design error where they're installing tools before fixing friction?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question. It's a question that in a lot of ways I have this flavors of this conversation multiple times in a week because there's so much hype out there with AI. And then one thing that's different about AI than some of like the earlier versions of technology where you could point to similar things, people are using AI, right? So like I mean you use a lot of the applications that you just use as a normal office worker, and they all have AI plugins and components. So people are starting to get used to these things, and so it seems a lot. I think it seems a lot more accessible. So there is a giant fear of missing out, on the executive level of like we know that there's value because we're being told there's so much value. Everybody's saying there's so much value, but what I tell people is like if everybody in the world is zigging right now, it's probably a good time to zag. Which does not mean that you abandon AI, but like fundamentally, AI has a lot of issues sort of baked into what it is, how it operates, how it would scale, its tendency to make stuff up when it doesn't know the answer, a lack of understanding of fundamentally what the underlying model is doing, and then honestly, the charlatans that are out there that are essentially selling like an upfront custom UI that looks different but is just an off-the-shelf underlying AI model that's meant to solve all your problems. Don't do any of those things. AI works great in that turbocharger sense, which is like if you've got a car and it's already pretty fast, you could put a turbocharger on and make it go faster, right? But using AI is sort of a blunt instrument to solve a bunch of like underlying business problems, particularly business problems that are structural and are sort of baked in, is not going to work out for you in the long run, right? There's so many issues, cost being one that we ignore all too often, right? Because a lot of people don't really think about the fact that every AI model that we're using right now is being subsidized by investor money at the moment. So it's cheaper than its actual market cost. So I think about like Uber as an example. The very first time I used Uber, I was working for a bigger consulting company. A friend of mine was like, "Oh, you got to try this Uber thing. It's awesome." So I like landed in LaGuardia. I had to go to like Midtown Manhattan. And it was like $10, right? And a cab ride was going to be like 40 or 50, whatever the cost was. And I'm like, "Oh, this is so cheap," right? Now an Uber is as expensive in Boston as a taxi, right? Because that's closer to the actual cost of someone to like pick you up at a location and take you to a different location.
Right.
So there are lots of other things that are ongoing as well too. But yeah, I tell people that there is value to be had, but this concept of like we're going to replace people or replace jobs, all overblown. Now, as a productivity tool, as an accelerator, fantastic tool. A lot can be done with that, but it is not going to fix your underlying sort of broken issues ever.
100%. I agree with you. And it's come up almost every one of these episodes that I've recorded that, you're not going to get replaced by an AI. That's not where it's at right now. It's going to take a while for it to get there. You're going to be replaced by someone who uses AI more effectively than you do because
Well,
it
but
is an incredible
yeah,
productivity tool.
but let me ask you this question because this is one thought experiment that I sometimes throw out as well. Name one job in the modern era that's ever been completely replaced by technology, right? I can think of one, and that's those like when you watch old movies and they have the old timey operators that are like talking on a headset and like plugging in wires and pulling it out. Like that job doesn't exist. But like jockeys still exist, horse trainers still exist. Now, we don't ride horses where we need to go, but those things still exist. Technology has an impact on jobs, but like this concept that like all jobs are going to go away, and it drives me crazy when people who are very smart and very successful, who should probably know better, like stand on their mountains and pontificate that like these entire things are going to get wiped away. I mean, I was in a shop a couple of weeks ago, and they're building a platform in the life sciences space, and they're doing great work. Every single coder that they had in their little pod had their main screen, and they had Claude AI open on the other one, and they were asking Claude how to code, right? Cool, that works until Claude gets it wrong, and then I suspect it's going to take 5 times the amount of work to debug that thing because they're just asking the AI to spit out code. So there's a place for it, but this idea that like AI is going to eliminate jobs, I mean, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, 100%. It's there's an issue with design, decision design. It's not it's just going to replace it won't replace execution. Anyway, moving on. You've led GX Speed from consulting into tech, and that's obviously not a small leap. What's been the most kind of personally expensive part of wearing too many hats or doing kind of everything, CEO of everything,
I
right?
mean, yeah, it's a constant balance. I think when you're in the services business, it becomes apparent, which is how do you balance a focus? So there's a lot of benefit from being focused and focused narrowly, right? You're not trying to capture the entire world. You have a coherent story to tell. It's easier for people to understand kind of the services that you bring to bear. So, but you can become over focused, right? And so people will tend to dismiss or ignore you because it's like, oh, your company doesn't do these things, right? Even if they're adjacent or they're kind of logical extensions. On the other hand, there's this all too common mistake of like basically treating yourself like you're a takeout menu where it's like, oh, we do everything and nothing all at the same time. So it's trying to find the right balance within that. But I mean, I do tell people I check in with old acquaintances, old colleagues, and old friends all the time that ask me how things are going. And I say, sometimes I feel like I get whiplash from all the changes in direction. And it also feels like I'm drinking from a fire hose, but then somehow at the same time, like a hamster in a wheel that doesn't always go anywhere. So yeah, the startup life is definitely a different experience, and I understand why it's not for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm going through that myself right
We're
now,
doing the
so
same thing.
I understand.
Yep.
So do you have like a day that you can walk us through, where trying to be kind of everywhere created risk or maybe drag in your business?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think the one of the fundamental things that I advise people to do is build the right team around you when you do this, because there's a risk, even if you are the expert at a thing in the world and people always defer to you, and people you don't have, let's say that you're so good and so well known that you don't have to sell, you don't have to do business development, people are coming to you and that's your entire book of business, right? If you do not have a team around you that enhances, right, you become a single point of success or failure for everything, right? So there's inherent risk in all of that. So the idea is, how do you build the team? How do you empower the team? How do you scale the team? How do you balance out decision rights? So for me, that was kind of one of the first and foremost questions to really ask, is how do you build this team of people that can balance out knowing when it's okay for them to do a thing and inform other people versus, hey, we need to discuss, versus, hey, we need to talk through this and I need to get permission doing that. So to me, it really is around building that team and making that team run effectively. I'm not saying we get it right all the time, but I am saying that we are constantly trying to do it better day in and day out. So for me, that's critical. I mean, there's a million people who have been successful in starting a business, and they have all kinds of good advice. Super common about the concept of like cash flow is king, right? I mean, that's like saying, yes, in order to be an elite athlete, you need to breathe. So yes, kind of obvious, but yeah, you need cash to be a business in a capitalist society. There's other advice about like you have to give up your day job. Like, you're not going to make a new endeavor happen on its own. Like the company's not going to start up and make itself successful. So this idea of like quitting your old job and focusing on that is also good advice. And I would add to that this concept of building the team and then making the team operate effectively.
Yeah, 100%. And how did you go about that? Did you kind of start with like a partner, someone kind of same level as you, kind of
Yeah,
same
we
goal, same vision, or did you kind of hire out some of the functions or delegate the tasks that you didn't want to do?
Yeah, I mean, we're in an interesting part of our phase. So we started off, there were three founders. So the idea being originally there were two of us, and then we sort of had a third person come into the conversation, but just talking about what was possible, right? What would this look like? There was a lot of discussion before we made any decisions going in. We landed on a vision, sort of did the thought about can we turn this into something tangible, something real, something successful. And then based on my experience in the past, when particularly being like a hiring manager and other consulting firms, some of the things I've seen with clients as well, what I wanted to do was to avoid the mistakes of bringing in the wrong person in a way that's hard to overcome that mistake, right? So this is advice I give to like actual clients, which is okay, you've got a problem child on your team and they're not doing what you need them to do. There's a balance because yeah, you could technically fire them, lay them off and replace them, but there's like a cost to that, right? And it's not just a financial cost, it's a cost in your time. There's a cost to everyone in your team. No one's going to come in and immediately pick it up exactly where this person was at. So there's like this balancing act. So one of the ways that we address it at GX Speed is we don't hire people, right? We bring them on as contractors, and then there's this grace period. And in the grace period, right, we learn whether it works. Does it work for you? Does it work for us? Does it work for our clients? If the answer is yes, then the answer forward is easy. So this idea of building this ecosystem of partners and then some of them become employees is how we're handling that particular piece. So we do have a broad ecosystem of other boutiques, other service providers, other technology providers as well. We're not trying to replicate all of those things, nor do I have any interest. And as we work with clients to build out how we want to help them address their problems, accelerate their growth, whatever their issue is that they're talking to us about, we can help manage that ecosystem for them, but we're not trying to replicate any of those things. So we can have these like strategic alliances, have these particular partnerships, and in some cases it makes sense, and then we can sort of bring that person into the mix in a more formal sense. But everything is fluid and flexible, which makes it adaptable as well.
Okay. Yeah, great. That makes sense. So how many full-time are you versus contractor now?
So we have about six full-time people, and we are probably somewhere in the neighborhood, depending on how you count them, because we have partials as well too. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 or so that are actively working, 15 FTEs equivalent or so that are actively working on our various projects, building our internal tools, and some of the other things we've got going. So still early days for us.
That's impressive growth. You said you started last fall, like 8, 9 months ago?
Like September or so, September to what is it, June, whatever that
10
difference.
months, yeah.
Right. So yeah, when I say it out loud, it seems fast, and yet I catch myself multiple times a day wishing it was faster or like things were happening at a different speed. But as I'm sure you're experiencing in this world, the sales cycle happens at the speed that it does, and it's not dictated by you, and you can influence it, but you don't own it. Right. So and then there's the ongoing sort of uncertainty around what's going on with regulation in the U.S., impacts to the FDA, so on and so forth. So we are seeing a lot of people kind of keeping their powder dry, sorting out what's going on with tariffs and all these broader economic impacts. So it might have been a bad time for a startup. Either that, or we're getting a jump start on everybody else. I'll come back to me in a couple months, and I know which of those two it is. Right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't have your website pulled up, but I wanted to kind of get you to give me a quick walkthrough of the AI systems that you're using. I forgot what the names are.
Yeah, so we have two products that we have are mature right now. The first one is called Dewey after the Dewey Decimal System. So it is enhanced by AI, but is not fundamentally an AI product. So what Dewey is I mean the sales pitch basically is so you're an executive and you want to do something different than you're doing today. So question one, is there a data component to what you're doing? And then question two, is your data good enough to do that thing that you mean to do with it? And I am able to ask these questions because I've seen so many projects get distracted, derailed, rescoped because the answer is yes, we do have data, and no, the data is not good enough. So what we did was we created a standalone diagnosis tool that we can deploy in a number of different ways. We have a SaaS version, we have a containerized version as well, where it can assess the quality of your data, and it scans across a number of dimensions: completeness, accuracy, timeliness. We can do custom checks, we can do custom configurations. But rather than having data analysts or data scientists using pandas, and Python going through and doing a manual analysis, we can do these kinds of scans in seconds or minutes. And even if you have a large data set, like in the terabytes, we wouldn't scan the whole thing, but we can do a kind of sampling algorithm. So fundamentally, that does not work based on AI, but it is enhanced by AI. So where we use AI in that model is, okay, these are your results. We understand what it is you're trying to do with it. Here are some suggestions about how to go forward with it. So again, like the vast majority of it will work whether AI exists or doesn't, but then it's enhanced by AI using that concept. So that's one example. The other example is a product that we call Garuda, which we were actually working on something different. This is still something that we've got working in our little skunk works in the back. But I was having a conversation with an attorney asking her questions about kind of the being a regulatory attorney in life sciences because that applied to what we were doing. And she let me know that she had like hung out her own shingle, was working as an independent doing a contingency-based litigation, and how difficult it was for her to do the review and the discovery of all the documents that she had been handed by the other party. And so what I said was like, oh, so we actually have this standalone application that we built for this other thing that actually allows you to, based on what your organizing principle, in that case, it was an audit checklist, can scan documents and find the relevant sentences, passages as well. So you can do the standard Boolean searches, you can do like the control F keyword searches, but then this one also uses AI, uses a hybrid model, but it does use an AI feature to be like, hey, this looks like the most relevant parts of these documents that you're scanning through. We showed it to her. We adjusted the AI. We made some tweaks, and she loved it so much that she basically bought a license for it. So in that case, it was something that we were intending to build as part of our ongoing audit and inspections platform. And then we packaged up a different version that has a legal discovery piece, but we're also talking to some universities and academics that also do sort of research, and they do, document review, source review as well, because there's a collaboration component to it as well, right? About its relevance there. So a lot of this is just building these reusable capabilities that are like blocks that you can build different structures with, and then again responding to the needs of the people you talk to.
Yeah, that's great. Those are both really interesting. The Dewey one, especially, my background's in data consulting, visualization management. So that would have been extremely nice to have versus doing it all manually.
It turns out it now exists.
Yeah.
Hit me up after the call, and we can discuss. I'm happy to arrange for a demo. We're pretty proud of it. I actually think it's going to go some interesting ways. We're looking at some interesting use cases again, looking at like universities and academics specifically, but there are ongoing business uses for it that we're uncovering all the time.
Yeah, for sure. So we got a few minutes left. I'm gonna do a quick rapid fire round. I got a few questions, just whatever's on the top of your head. Sound good? Okay. Most common myth about speed in complex environments.
Yeah, it's this idea that the world is too complex to just charge forward. So it's the talking yourself into paralysis. Does not have to be, but at the same time, speed for its own sake is not value.
Yeah, for sure. One action that a founder should take this week to reduce drag.
Delegate, delegate the things that you should not be doing.
Okay. Favorite non-business lesson that applies to leading your firm.
I mean, I guess this is business relevant, but teams tend to take on some of the personality traits, the people who lead them. So that which you model in your life and in your business, other people will also do as well too. So constantly think about the impact you're having on others.
Yeah, absolutely. Something my parents always say is like you're the sum of the five people closest to you. And, when you spend most of your day at work, naturally.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was great. Incredible insights today. Where can folks connect with you or learn more about GX Speed?
Yeah, gxp.com is our website. There are numerous ways to contact me. People can hit me up on LinkedIn. We also have an info@gxp.com where if you send us a message, we will respond.
Okay. Amazing. If this episode sparked something, pass it to a boutique leader or a friend in your network. Until next time, I'm Jaden Parisi.
Thanks, Jaden. Have a good one.
Yep.